Welcome back to PPCM's Painful Truth. Today's guest, Stephanie McDonald.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Good morning. Thank you so much for your time today and explaining your story and experience with peripartum cardiomyopathy PPCM. I know you got a boo-boo baby in the background. Is that your PPCM baby?
Yes, my little heart baby.
Aww.
He just turned 3 months old.
Oh,
And he just woke up from his nap. So he's looking at me like, where's my baba?
Yes. I would like to know, because obviously your baby's 3 months. When were you feeling like my pregnancy is just the symptoms are it's not okay? Did you express yourself to your OB, or who was the person that was treating you for the 9 months that you were pregnant, and did this person diagnose you during pregnancy?
No, they did not during pregnancy. I was actually seeing a high-risk doctor and my normal OB. And around probably, I'd say like 35 weeks, I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night one night and I couldn't breathe at all. I couldn't breathe. I had to like stand up and like lay against the side of my bed just to try to breathe a little bit. So I saw the high-risk doctor the next day. I was going twice a week for monitoring at the high risk, and then once a week at my OB. So when I went to the high-risk doctor, I told him about it, and they told me, sorry about that. They told me that it was just the baby against my diaphragm and my lungs. That's why I couldn't breathe. So, I mean, of course, they're high-risk doctors. I believe them.
They were assuming because they didn't give you the blood test and they didn't check your heart and EKG. So here their high-risk doctors are assuming your symptoms when you were clearly, in fact, suffocating on your fluid.
Yeah. And then I was swelling so bad. My feet were so swollen. I couldn't even wear my shoes. My feet were so and my hands were swollen, and they told me just to wear arm braces at night. So I bought wrist braces to try to help sleep better, because I'd wake up and my wrist would be completely numb from being swollen.
Actually, so, I remember that.
Yeah.
At 41 weeks pregnant, I was swollen over 50 pounds of fluid.
Yeah.
And and my hands, I couldn't close them, and my wrist did feel numb. I didn't remember that until you just mentioned it just now. That is a very clear symptom of what we experience. I remember that.
Yeah. So I had that, and they just told me to wear wrist guard. It seemed like everything I told them, they said it was just a sympathy of pregnancy. I had heart palpitations, and I told my OB about that. And again, it was just, it's just a sympathy of pregnancy, yada, yada.
What state are you in? What
Nevada,
what city?
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay.
So then so then around 37 weeks, I had a high blood pressure, so they were monitoring me for that. So I went to my high-risk doctor. My blood pressure seemed to be fine. When I went to my OB appointment that same day, my blood pressure spiked. So my OB decided to induce me at 37 weeks. Well, my OB is connected to the hospital. So she had me walk immediately to labor and delivery. But on my way there, I couldn't breathe the whole way there. I had to stop like every 5 feet to catch my breath. And then I asked them about that, and they like, oh, you're having a panic attacks because you're about to be induced. You're just very nervous. It's panic attacks. So it took me forever just to get to labor and delivery, because I had to stop every 5 feet.
Yeah. It's really a shame that here you are saying I can't breathe, and they're coming up with all of these assumptions. Again, still not testing you.
Exactly. No tests.
The issue with gynecology community is that they don't have a real diagnosis, and the test that will determine is not mandatory or standard. So women that are having these heart problems during pregnancy don't know to ask for the test, and people don't know to give it because it's cardiology, but you're having a baby. You wouldn't go to a cardiologist, you would go to a gynecologist.
Exactly.
Which is why there needs to be a cardiologist always involved when a woman says, I have shortness of breath or I feel this. They should automatically know that that's when they need to refer a cardiologist. It's no longer under their care. That you are a patient are no longer. The baby's under their care, but not you.
Yeah, looking back, the high risk doctor, I'm so angry with them because I kept telling them that I couldn't breathe because it was something that happened many times, several nights, waking up in the middle of the night.
What doctor is this?
The high risk doctor.
Yeah. What does it have? Do they have a name?
I can't remember off the top of my head. Dr. Jackson
at where?
High risk center, pregnancy center here in Las Vegas.
Yeah. What hospital?
Oh, I went to Centennial Hills Hospital where I delivered. So, and then I was induced, and I went through 36 hours labor, and while I was pushing for an hour and a half, and like while I was pushing, I literally couldn't breathe. I couldn't even hold my breath to count to 10. And my nurse was yelling at me for not being able to hold my breath and count to 10. I could get to 5.
It's your fault. It's your fault that you can't breathe.
She's like, if you want this baby to come out, I really need you to try to hold it until you get to 10. And I'm like, I literally can't breathe.
Oh my gosh.
So that was crazy.
Gosh. That is crazy.
So then we had the baby.
I'm angry with you about this because everything that you're talking about really hits for me.
Yeah.
And this is fresh for you. So here you just have a baby.
It is. I'm just now trying to start dealing with it. I cried for days, and I just cried thinking about it.
I remember. I still cry. I still cry. I still cry with what happened to me. I cry because I'm angry, but then I decided to turn, my anger into, because I see all women like you that just, that suffer, and you can't be diagnosed with peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM, and not have depression, not have fears, not have the
I'm on Zoloft now. I've never had issues in my life.
Give it a year and you will love it. I mean, me either. I'm a different person. I couldn't stop crying. This was a year ago. I believe my mom, suffered terribly because of this disease. She had walking pneumonia 4 months after my heart procedure, and she died, my mom, and then my dad died.
Sorry to hear that.
I was dealing with a lot of grief on top of just having a baby. My situation was very scary, but I lived. And so once I started to notice that girls kept dying at the hospital at Cedars-Sinai where I gave birth, and I've noticed that women like you, newly diagnosed, are like, what happened?
Yeah.
How was your health prior to you?
I was
pregnant?
fine. I was totally fine. I had no health issues. I hadn't been to the doctor in years.
You've never had a heart problem in your life?
Never had a heart problem. Nothing. I had asthma when I was a child. Was all.
Yeah.
And then I did get hypertension while I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So I did have that. So I was on the labetalol. But other than that, my health is fine.
How long have you been on Zoloft now?
They gave it to me at my 6-week appointment because I was a mess. I was crying every single day. I was scared to be alone. I was scared to be alone with the baby. Yeah. So I didn't want my husband to leave for work, and if he left, I wanted my mom or my sister here because I didn't want to be alone. And something happened to me, and him not have anybody to hear for him. I was scared to carry him around.
I remember that feeling. My husband felt the same. He rerouted his entire life. He did not work. We work from home. We changed he even got a job I love him. He got a job literally on the corner of our street in West Hollywood at the time because he didn't want. I knew I didn't feel comfortable and safe being alone with the baby because I was scared, and he
Yeah.
was scared. So he watched me. So he never, ever since this happened to me, I don't think he's really ever left my side except for the grocery store, to be
Yeah.
honest. But how is your husband dealing with this as well?
I think he's doing pretty well. We also had so after I had the baby was taken to the NICU immediately. So the baby was in the NICU for 10 days. So he had to deal with me and the baby being sick. And so it was a lot. And then with COVID, he wasn't allowed at the hospital with me except for his certain hours and stuff. So it was hard for him to be home alone without either one of us.
That's right. COVID definitely plays a big part in even less support than what we have.
Yeah, my first
because
yeah. So after I had the baby, the baby went to NICU, and then they took me back to my room, and I was still having a hard time breathing, and they tried laying me back, and I couldn't breathe. So I started freaking out and telling them I couldn't breathe. And by this time I started having a cough too. And I told them I can feel like there's fluid in my cough, but the nurses kept telling me, you're having panic attacks. Your baby's in the NICU. You're just very worried about your baby. You're having panic attacks. And they like opened the window and they're like, look at the mountains. It'll help you. So I'm like, okay. So I did that, looked at the mountains, and then I was released on Halloween. And the next day I was trying I really wanted to breastfeed him. That was like one of my main goals, because he's probably gonna be my only son. I really wanted to breastfeed. So the next day I was drinking and trying to pump and just drinking as much water as I possibly could to pump. And I was emotional because the baby was in the NICU. And then that night I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was the worst it had ever been. I could not breathe at all. I couldn't sleep because I couldn't breathe. I thought it was just panic attacks. That's what everybody was telling me. So that next day, I couldn't even do anything. I couldn't even like walk down the stairs. I was just having massive panic attacks, what I thought was panic attacks. I tried taking a shower. I couldn't even step into the shower because I couldn't breathe. So I literally sat in my backyard, bawling my eyes out, not being able to breathe, staring at the mountains because I thought it was panic attacks. That's what the nurse told me to do. So I just sat outside pretty much a whole day. And then that night, that night we went and saw the baby, me and my husband, and he had to go get a wheelchair for me because I couldn't walk just to go see the baby. And the whole way up there, we're seeing all the nurses, we're seeing doctors. We even saw the NICU doctors were there, and we were telling them what was going on. Like, I can't breathe. This is how I'm feeling. They saw me in the wheelchair. They saw that I could barely walk, but they all just assumed it was panic attacks too because of the baby, that I was just overly stressed, overly tired because of the baby. So we came home that night, and my husband's like, what do you want to do? I said, let's go to the hospital. If this is panic attacks, I need medicine. If the baby gets released, how can I take care of him when I literally can't walk 2 feet without a panic attack? Because that's what I was assuming I was having. So we went to just a little local ER up here.
While you're having heart failure.
Yeah. And I just assumed it was panic attack. So I asked him for some medicine, and luckily that ER doctor, he must have recognized something, because he ordered all kinds of tests. He ordered an EKG on me. He ordered an MRI of my lungs. And then he came back in, and like I said, I thought it was panic attack. So I was expecting them to give me some kind of medicine to just help my nerves. And he said, you immediately need to go to the hospital. We're going to have an ambulance come pick you up. He wouldn't even let me drive the 3 blocks to the hospital itself. And he told me that I had so much fluid in my lungs that he's surprised I was able to actually be talking and be alert, that he was afraid something was going to happen to me just the 3-mile drive to the hospital. So, and then we get to the ER. They take me to the ER, and they gave me LASIK and stuff like that. I still have no clue what's going on. Nobody said anything. And then I had one doctor come in and tell me that I had congestional heart failure. And I was like, what? And then lo and behold, my OB, who never came to see me in the ER, my OB called in and told him that I was having postpartum cardiomyopathy. So my OB knew once she heard my symptoms, then what I was having.
She ran.
But before
She ran.
I'm sorry?
Your OB, she basically ran. She didn't walk away. She ran away after hearing.
I never saw him. I saw him like I was in the hospital for 5 days. I saw him towards the
is this Dr. Jackson?
No, this is Dr. Bacala and Dr. McLemore. There's like a dual.
What OB center?
Dr. Bacala's office. That's just, she has her own office.
But she knew, and this is in Vegas, so she has a private practice.
Yes.
And after she found out about peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM, she never wanted did she have unwillingness to learn and to talk to you?
I didn't talk to her until my 6-week follow-up. I talked to a different doctor in her practice, Dr. McLemore. He's the one that actually delivered my son because she was on vacation. He didn't see me until towards the end of my stay when I was about to be released from the hospital. He finally came in to see me, to check on me. And that was all I saw of him after being diagnosed.
So they didn't use you as like a study to say, how are you feeling? I'm sorry, like no apology from the OB?
No, nothing from the OB at all. And there was a lot of confusion too.
That's so common. It's so common. And that is why there has not been change in over 30 years of women on our group that has been a PPCM survivor at the peripartum cardiomyopathy group site. There are women there that have recovered and lived a very, very long life. And you can fully recover because it's a pregnancy-induced heart failure. You're fine before pregnancy. Your complications happen during pregnancy. And if you are diagnosed and treated early, then you are saved. If you are left and dismissed and told every other symptom that you have is an assumption as opposed to an actual clear diagnosis of your blood, knowing your BNP test number, knowing your EF percent, and seeing your heart through a heart X-ray, through an X-ray to see your heart if it is in fact enlarged and being squished and suffocated by your fluid, which is exactly what you were experiencing. And this is because it's a pregnancy-induced complication. The lack of willingness, as well as the education, the training, the practice and policy behind medicine with women who are pregnant on behalf of our health and wellness since the beginning of time has been brushed off, ignored, disrespected. And these are women in the wheelhouse that literally blow off and feel like the education that we are providing is fearful. Well, it's fearful when you don't have this education.
Yeah.
It's not fearful to have the awareness. And that is where I don't understand, when did education and study become fearful instead of informative? And so, women like yourself, it's extremely common of everything that you went through, you feel. It is not rare, which is rare, is for the medical community to have any diagnosis, any education, zero communication, how this should be trained with the preventions. That is rare.
Yeah.
We are common. And that's why we're talking about this. And we are discussing today how you as an American woman have been severely challenged by the negligence of what we don't know can hurt. And what you didn't know is the BNP test, right?
Yeah, I had no idea about it until after I got this, and I joined the Facebook support group. And that's when I kind of learned. That's when I learned a lot of things.
Now, what was your BNP number?
I think in the hospital after I diagnosed, I think it was like 112 or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I have to look it up. But then, but I know that was, I think that it was like 112, I wanted to say. I'm not positive though.
Yeah, 112, unless you have the full NT Pro BNP, I think anything below like 300 is normal. But if you have just the BNP, like I guess the not full panel, it's anything below 99. So you could even be like a -2, a 25, a 47. But once you hit 99, it's like, what's your fluid disease? Is it heart failure? Is it cancer? Is it dementia? It's like, what's your fluid
Yeah.
disease? And that's what the blood test determine, is the elevated levels of
And I
those,
think that
blood
test was
cells.
after I had already been treated for several days. I was on LASIK and stuff for several days. So I don't know if that matters at all, but it's been
So-
hard because I'm trying to find like a cardiologist that specializes in it, but there's no, like, you just do a Google search and it's really hard to even find like cardiologists that's not like something that they put on their profile that they specialize in. So, you know,
you're absolutely right. My cardiologist, she's wonderful. I referred last night a woman who's 41 weeks pregnant to her. She's in Bakersfield, and I believe she's going to see her today. And I texted my cardiologist even at like 9 o'clock at night, and she's wonderful. She's the head of the Women's Heart Center. So if you have a hard time, maybe I can ask her to refer. But I said, you're the only doctor that has any support behind this medical prevention disease and preventing catastrophes. And she's,
Yeah.
she is hands-on with that. But there's not many. You're right. And she is educated in gynecology. But so once you were diagnosed, now you're home with the baby at 3 months. What is your EF percent today? And how are they treating you? What are your treatments?
I haven't had an echo. I have one on the 8th. I haven't had one since I was diagnosed. And it was 35 to 40 when I was diagnosed. And sorry, my phone's going off. And I have an echo on the 8th. Right now I take several medicines. I take Entresto.
Mm-hmm.
I take carvedilol. One that starts with the Z that they also use for diabetes. I can't remember the name of it. And then I take a water pill that starts with an S, Spiranta or something like that. I've been having problems with my cardiologist because he just wanted to put me on medicine and see him in 6 months for another echo. And I didn't want that. I wanted to try to, hopefully, the thing that's hit me the hardest was not being able to breastfeed. I can't breastfeed on the Entresto. And I really wanted that. So I finally convinced him to do an echo at 3 months to see if hopefully I can maybe get off the Entresto and be able to at least try to pump some breast milk for my baby. So that's what I'm hoping. But I just feel like my cardiologist, I just don't think he knows a lot about it, because I just go in there. He's there literally for 5 minutes. He checks my heart, my blood pressure, and then I leave. And he just tells me, oh, reduce this medicine. Oh, do this. So I kind of want to have one that can like do more tests, because I'm still like kind of scared, and I'd be nice to be like more reassured that things are going to be fine. But I kind of feel like he's just, oh, come every 6 months, take your medicine. That's it. And
that's not okay. That's also, you find another doctor. You can go to my doctor. I can refer you. She's wonderful. We can figure that out when we get off, our interview. But I would like to, because I feel you 6 months, you're 3 months out. You need to be monitored a lot closer. And
that's what I'm
more
scared
hands-on.
of.
You need to self-advocate. And this is where self-advocacy really comes into practice with you, and knowing how to meet yourself at your level. You know your body best. Do not listen to anybody but yourself. I always say, consult your intuition first, And I like to say that, and when I give advice, it's easier said than done because I went through it as well. When I couldn't breastfeed either.
Yeah.
I had the same feelings that you had. I had to let it go.
I know.
Wait, I'll tell you why. One, and let me tell you, let me just say something that maybe may make your heart feel a little lighter, okay, about this. And this is also what my mom told me before she passed. There are two things that I want to say here. I know that there's that bond that we wanted to have. I personally was in a coma. I wasn't awake.
Yeah, wow.
I was in a hyperthermia coma. I had cardiac death.
Wow.
My heart stopped over 30 minutes each cardiac. And so I wasn't awake to even be with my son.
Yeah.
You know, and this was really something that was really hard on me. And my mom said, well, Lindsay, to be honest with you, I didn't breastfeed with you and you turned out just perfect. And our bond, she was my everything, my best friend, you know, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, I literally like needed to hear that from her, that you were stronger than any other baby. And I don't know if it's because you weren't breastfed. Fast forward, before my you know, I wanted to fly home to show my mom, you know, my dad in Philadelphia, Eagles hat, my son Liam, and I had the plane ticket, everything. I called the pediatrician, and I talked to 3 different pediatricians. One at Cedars-Sinai, one in Haddingfield, my pediatrician that I went to the thing, and they had something very similar. Now, I'm not saying that breastfeeding is not a beautiful, needed, and there's nothing better than having the breast milk. But if you have had an infection and you've had fluid, I feel like I was uncomfortable because I could be feeding him my infection, my fluid. And I knew however I was feeding my baby, he was being fed and he is loved. And, you know, I don't want to feel like, make myself feel bad for something that wasn't my fault, but I had, you know, plans changed, you know, plans changed. I had to let it go. The pediatricians now have said, and again, I'm not knocking breastfeeding. I have to be very clear about that, because I think that there's a whole industry with you know, this, how you pump, how you breastfeed, and blah blah blah. But the pediatrician said to me, and my son was 3 months old, and he said, if he is being breastfed, he will need this vitamin, this vitamin, this vitamin, this vitamin, and that vitamin. I mean, there was like a list.
Yeah.
If he's not breastfed and he's bottle fed, then he has all the nutrition and vitamins that he's needed, and he is completely fine. Now, I observe. I'm very observant with my son. I took him to bounce. I took him to a lot of kids' things. I was very involved, mommy, a swim. You know, I was in recovery, but I would watch. My son was strong, like even like a tripod, at like lifting his head up and being strong, where all these other babies, I mean, and he was like younger even, and they couldn't lift their head up. They couldn't, they were like kind of like a little fragile and not like, I can't, like, he was solid. My son, solid. At a year, he was walking, you know, very soon because he was able to lift himself up, getting in the water, got his little legs going, and it prepared him.
Yeah.
So I took the steps, but there was a huge difference. Then there was another baby that was just like Liam, and the other ones were frail. And I said, "Can I ask you a personal question?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you breastfeed or do you bottle feed?" She says, "I bottle feed." I said, I can't breastfeed, but he gets all the new. I said, oh, she was trying to like educate me and justify. And I said, "No, I can't either. I'm a PPCM survivor." And so, she didn't know what it was, but we had like this, and then I started knowing and looking and seeing that baby's breastfed. That baby's not breastfed. We don't live in the 1800s anymore.
Yeah.
We have, the baby formula that's actually made today have nutrition and vitamins in there that I think naturally we can't produce. You get, maybe like a week or two getting those antibodies in the baby, fine. But if after that what they need is good nutrition. And if mommy it can't provide that nutrition, then you shouldn't feel bad about it. You shouldn't. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't and you should, because I did, and I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
But at some point, like, this disease is all about where the rug was lifted up from underneath you. People plan. God laughs. This was not. You didn't plan on having an OB that had zero awareness of peripartum cardiomyopathy to get the early diagnosis, to be treated early. That's not your fault. That's your OB's fault for not, and the unwillingness even after. That's where this issue lies. You planned on having a baby, and you planned on it being joyful and having all the things joyful with it. But that's not what happened.
Yeah.
It's the painful truth. And I had to go on, I went on Zoloft. It took me a full year. Now, once it starts kicking in, it takes a full year. I'm up to 100 milligrams right now. But once you work with it and it balances and nourishes the brain, which took a full year to condition. Do not go off of it when you feel good. It's because you feel so good because the medication is working. So many women go off of the medication because they're like, "Oh, I feel great now. I don't need it." They forget that it took all that time for them to feel good. Why would you go off of it? If it finally works, and they spiral, they go down.
Yeah.
And then, and maybe it wouldn't hurt for you. I take a lot of milligrams, but maybe just a little milligrams, maybe 25 of trazodone at night before you go to bed.
To help sleep. That's such a hard time sleeping.
I understand your mind. It is a powerful tool. It can heal your heart, but it can also, stress kills. I learned this from my mom.
Yeah. And then our baby's been, so when we got home from both of us got home from the hospital finally, he was home only 3 days, and then he had a pyloric stenosis. He was vomiting. So we were back in the hospital for a week because he had surgery, and the first one didn't take. So we had to have a second pyloric stenosis surgery. And then we just got home Friday. He had a surgery on his kidneys. So it's been rough dealing with my situation. Yeah, the baby. So
the baby had kidney surgery?
Yeah, he's had 3 surgeries and he's only 3 months old. So
I'm sorry I didn't bring this up sooner. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so it's been crazy dealing with my stuff and then dealing with the baby stuff, and our medical bills are just outrageous.
How is he recovering?
He's doing good. He's doing a lot better. It was rough for a little while, but he's doing better now. But he's gonna have a scar the rest of his life on his little belly, which is sad. But it is what it is.
Oh,
It
well,
just
scars are
feels like
sexy. I have my big scar. I mean,
yeah. That's what we figure. He'll have his battle wound when
it
he gets
is what it
older.
is. It's his battle wound.
Yeah,
It just
it's
shows
just
that he is a true survivor. Oh my gosh, I
yeah.
really would love to continue with you on another interview to do a follow-up
Okay.
on who's caring for you, how your baby's doing, and what we can do to maybe help, as a
Okay.
nonprofit um that is like, really understanding all this journey that you're going through. It's
Yeah. Well,
it's
it's just
definitely
it's nice to found. I'm like so happy I found that Facebook group. To know that there's other people that went through it, and then I know I'm lucky. You were in a coma. There's lots of people that had
there's
immediately had
no
heart transplants.
trust me. I
But it's
There's
nice
no
to know.
degree. There's no
Yeah.
degree. This is a mental health issue as well. There is
Oh,
what I went.
definitely.
It doesn't matter if you're diagnosed and didn't experience it, or diagnosed and experienced it until death, or diagnosed and got a new heart. There is no level of degree once you're diagnosed with this degree. I'm no different than you. I am a woman that experienced maternal mortality just like a woman who has been diagnosed. There is no degree
Yeah.
of, oh, you suffered more than I have. No, this disease is
Yeah.
hard on the mind, hard on depression, hard on the body.
Very.
It's scary. And you're not alone. I mean, there are so many women that this happens to. It's so very common. It's just until now that we're able to talk about this. And
yeah, that's why I'm very happy I found that Facebook group, and to just read other people's stories and to know that there's, see every people's questions, and it's helped me a lot. I learned more through that Facebook group than I did just my own cardiologist. So
absolutely, because survivors are smarter than the medical community, because wounds have wisdom, and we know nobody needs to educate us. We live it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're talking about the painful truth of our reality, but it does get better, and you can fully recover, and you just have to
I'm really hoping for.
Condition the mind. This Zoloft will work. Call your doctor, say you would love some trazodone, say you're having, a hard time, and that, you were referred to this, medication. Try taking your medication, even your heart medication, at night with a full glass of water. They say that water and heart, our heart is a muscle. You got to keep it moist. Do some stretching. You must, to get that blood pumping to your heart. It's not about walking or working out. It's about a matter of stretching, really.
Stretching, okay.
Open up your heart, open up your heart, and, really take in that breath, put your arms back, in every which way, and breathe through it, and just try to mentally condition your mind that the language of letting go.
Yeah.
Because we can't control this, but we can control our feelings, and if you change the thought, you change the feeling. But that also comes with mental health, of conditioning and meeting you at the level of depression, the process of recovery, which is a process. And we can, aside from this interview, we can talk off the interview, and I can give you some referrals and things.
Okay, that'd be great.
Be a little bit more specific. And and I just, with my whole heart, I understand you. I get it.
Yeah.
I hope you telling your story gives you a little justice.
Yeah, I'm finally starting to let go of the anger. I was very angry for so long, and just didn't understand how I could be monitored so much, but nobody could have caught anything. But I'm finally starting to let go of some of the anger a little bit and try to be happy and focus
Well,
on the baby.
I have to tell you, the anger doesn't go away even after 5 years, which is why I'm starting this platform, because I'm turning I'm turning lemons into lemonade and trying to show that I'm trying to turn my anger into something positive, and I think we
Yeah.
all need to. You got to find what helps you cope, whatever it is, and just grab onto that. For me,
Yeah.
I cope with helping others, and I cope with being there for others, and I cope with lifting women up, with feeling like they deserve justice behind this disease and the respect. So thank you
Yeah.
so very much for
Well, thank
your
you.
time today, and
Yeah.
many blessings in your miracle baby. And I'll say prayers, and I'll catch
Thank
up with
you.
you after this interview, and we'll do a
Okay.
follow-up.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the PPCM Fund podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. PPCM's Painful Truth is made possible through the generous support of donors like you. Help us spread the awareness by donating at ppcmfund.com or click the link below to become a member through Ko-fi. Have a great day.